Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is another Shropshire church. This is the Church of St Margaret, Abdon. Now Abdon is one of England's deserted or semi-deserted villages. God willing, one of the videos a few weeks ago would have been from Heath Chapel, and Heath is another deserted village in this area in the Shropshire Hills. The Black Death was one of the most traumatic experiences in all of English history, indeed in all of European history. It's reckoned that perhaps a third of the entire population of Western Europe were killed off. In some areas it was half or even more. And one of the results of this was that patterns of settlement and labour changed. That marginal settlements like this up in the Shropshire Hills, ceased to be simply marginal and became in fact failing and eventually failed villages. Just down from the church here, there's the earthworks of the medieval village. Today, there's not many villages in Abdon. And this church at one point was in a very poor state of repair. It has been fixed up now, 19th century, recently been repaired in the 20th century, and 21st century. You've seen behind me this beam running across, it's structural, and you can see the middle part has been taken out and replaced because it was rotten and the building then was threatening to collapse in upon itself. It's a very simple building. It's originally 12th century. There's very little in the way of the structure to indicate that, apart from just the simplicity of the building. There's a nice font here just in front of me, I'll show it in a moment. So we'll have a look around and comment on some of the features of this church in a deserted medieval village. And so here we are at the back at Abdon. First of all, we have the font, this lovely 12th century font, very typical of this area, obviously being patched and repaired over the centuries. Unlike Heath Chapel, the building here is quite low and long in character. There is a separate chancel, as you can see. The furnishings here are basically 19th century. You see there you've got that inner door with the red bays, which of course is insulation because it can get very cold here in the winter. It's a war memorial here. It's amazing there was three men in the 39-45 Second World War killed from this village, given how tiny the village is. And then just four from the First World War, 3 killed in action, 1 in hospital. You notice Davis and Gwilt, both of those are Welsh names because we're quite close to the Welsh border here. The screen is partially medieval. Obviously the screen is structural here. It's built in, that's the rood beam, and you can see it's built into the actual structure of the building. It's a nice, again, 19th century pulpit, memorials here to members of the Bradley family from Manor House and Upper House. And the Manor House, of course, survived, and is the reason why there's a village here and the reason why there's a church here today and not a ruin. We have here memorial to the Reverend Samuel Maddock, M.A., rector of this parish, as part of his life, 6th of August 1828, aged 28 years. During the period of that life, which it pleased Almighty Wisdom to bring to an untimely end, his pious, amiable, and benevolent qualities had endeared him to his family and friends, and gained him the esteem and affection of all that knew him. Lord, so teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And that's a very Georgian, actually, sentiment. Here we have a surviving medieval window, looks 14th century, quite nice, just a few bits of stained glass, and again the glass in the east window is patterned rather than anything else. Little organ here, pulpit again, and west. You see, incredibly simple, incredibly small, whitewashed interior. And the point of about the whitewash is that relatively small windows, a reflecting surface, as whitewash tends to be, means that you've got more light inside, and you don't necessarily have to have the artificial light on all the time, although given how tiny the windows are here, I suspect they do. And the chance is the lightest part of the building. It's a very pleasant little building. A good example, let's say, at the font in the middle there. You have to squeeze past it to get to the back pews. And there's no vestry or anything like that. It's just this long, low church. So that's the inside. Let's have a look at the outside and a little look at some of the evidence for the deserted village down from the church. And so here we are outside at Abdon. You can see again how small and long and low this church is. It's set here in a setting that is sort of, well, originally would have been a miniature version of the setting at Ditton Priors, with the village behind the camera and the church up here. The village is gone now. There's scattered houses, scattered farms, the manor house, but there's nothing in the way of a clustered village anywhere. It's a parish of scattered settlement. Well, let's have a look around the outside and a little peep at the old village. So there we are, that's the outside of this little church. It's one of the smaller churches in the area. I suppose the ground plan is not much. It's very similar to that of Heath in some respects, but it's a shorter building that doesn't have that big high roof line that Heath has. I suspect it's quite good it doesn't in terms of the heating. So graveyard, and this now leads. This is the path that would have led to the village, and here is the stile that leads across to where the village was. And you can see there's no village. Where's it gone? That's down there's the hollow way. That would have been one of the main streets. There are platforms where houses stood, but it's all gone. The Black Death has extinguished it. It wouldn't have been that everybody died in the Black Death, of course. It would instead have been that people moved away, that farming, trying to grow crops up here, and it is quite an elevated site, and in the cooler climate of the 14th century, when the winters were much colder than they are now, then it would have been a marginal land at best. And if you've got the opportunity to move away down into the valleys and settle somewhere else, you would. You see there's that 14th century window. There's the porch, nice big porch again, big church porches. That's probably quite relatively late, that church porch, though. It's unlikely to be medieval. The medieval porch would probably have been a much wooden affair. And here we have another style, and again more village earthworks, but there's horses in that field, but no village anymore. And so we'll go around the north side of the church. Here's the west end, and you've got that little bit of strengthening that's been put in to hold up that 19th century bell cot. The two bells, the ding and the dong, would sound out through the valley. Of course, they don't have a weekly service here anymore. Very few of these rural churches do, simply because of the numbers. And you think, after all, this is the middle of nowhere here. See, there's a newer window. The older windows are also visible here. You can only tell they're older because they're more eroded. And they would be probably 13th century. So it's a very simple building. Little chancel hasn't grown the way they often did in the 13th century. Again, the village could never have been very large, and up here as it is, really the land here would be marginal. It's mostly today sheep farming, which is what it became after the Black Death, as the old villages fell into decay, the peasants were not there to work the land, and sheep farming could be very, very lucrative. So there's a lot of money in sheep farming. There we have the east window, which is Victorian, and so back around here to the south side, a little bell cot and that 14th century window. Just before, I expect, the Black Death came and decimated the village and led to its eventual abandonment. As we already noted, looking at the chapel at Heath, Shropshire, the Shropshire Hills is an area where there's many abandoned villages. Heath and Abdon are two of the best. There's an even more abandoned village at Cold Weston, but of course that means that the church there is no longer visitable, it's now a private house. There are some shrunken villages, I've seen one or two of those in past videos, and visit one or two more perhaps, but it's a fascinating, it's a lovely area, really picturesque. So it's a good place for a summer Monday. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.